Today we're going to be talking about how to find the slope of some real world equations and how to write the equations also. Okay, so first off, all of these equations are going to be in y equals mx plus b format. And so we're going to talk about how to identify each one of those variables, okay? So the x is always going to be the independent variable. It's going to be the thing that is determining what the outcome is. And the y is going to be the dependent. So that's going to be the output. It's going to be the thing that is going to be at the end of the problem. Okay. Our slope is going to be happening several times. It's going to be happening over and over again. And then there are a couple of words that always indicate slope to us in a word problem. And those can be words like each, every, and per. Okay, the B is going to be the initial, so what it is at the very beginning, or it can also be something that happens only one time. It's not going to be happening over and over again. Okay, so let's go ahead and write the equation for this first scenario. It says a taxi charges a person $3 to get into the vehicle and then $2 for every mile. Okay, so first off, we're going to have a 3 to get into the vehicle, and then we're going to have the 2 for every mile. And you might remember I just said that every is a slope word. So we know that this 2 is going to be our m. Okay, and then the 3 is going to be what's the initial, what they charge at the very beginning to first get in, and that's just a one-time charge, so that will be our B. Okay, so we'll fill those numbers in. Y equals 2x plus 3, and in this situation, y, our dependent, is going to be after we multiply 2 times the miles and we add 3, that is going to be the total charge, how much money we owe at the very end. And then the x, you see how it says every mile. Whatever comes that is attached to the slope, the 2 is for every mile, it's going to be the number of that. So the x is going to represent the number of miles. Okay. So the next question says, well, if they were in the car for 6 miles, how much would they have to pay? And so since miles is an x value, they're asking you, what is y going to equal when x equals 6? So we're going to take our equation, y equals 2x plus 3, and we're going to substitute that 6 in there. 2 times 6 plus 3. Okay, this is one of those that we're going to be able to put everything after the equal sign into our calculator to go ahead and get our answer, right? We've been using Desmos, and I want you to go ahead and continue to use Desmos. Don't forget, when you're just doing this kind of simple math, you want to go to the scientific calculator, and then you will just type it in everything after the equal sign. So we will have 2 parentheses 6 and then plus 3 to get our answer, which would be 15. Okay, so our final answer is going to be $15. Okay, $15. Now it says a different person paid a total of $13. How many miles did the taxi take them? Okay, so the total, don't forget, is the y value. So they're wanting to know if y equals 13, what is our x going to equal? So again, we take our equation, y equals 2x plus 3, and we're going to substitute in 13. Okay, 13 equals 2x plus 3. Now we are going to go ahead and solve for x. So don't forget, when we're solving, we have to use the inverse operation. So I want to take that plus 3 and I want to move it to the other side. So I would subtract 3 from both sides of that equation, and I would end up with 10 equals 2x. The final step would be to divide both sides by 2, and I would get 5. Okay, so here it would be 5 miles, right? So they're wanting us to go ahead and graph this. So our x-axis, if you remember, is representing the number of miles, and the y-axis is representing the total charge. Okay, so we'll go ahead and label those, and these are just both going to be counting by ones. Okay, so the very first point on this graph is going to be at 0.3 because right when they get in the cab, they have to pay $3. Okay. And then for each mile, once they go 1 mile, they have to pay an additional $2. So our slope in this situation is going to be 2 because every mile they have to pay $2 more. So I would just continue with that up to over 1 pattern until I run out of boxes on my graph, like this. Okay, so I would connect those because this is continuous, right? And then I'm going to stop there. Okay, so for the next equation, we're going to do the same thing. Okay, so we need to identify the m and the b in our equation. Okay, so what is m going to equal? What is b going to equal? To rent a bike in the city costs $5 plus an additional $3 for every hour you're gone. Okay, so 5 is going to be the initial. That's the very first charge. It only happens one time. So that will be our b value. And then the additional $3 for every, don't forget, every is a slope word, so that 3 is going to be our m, right? So our equation will be y equals 3x plus 5. So the output, what are we getting when we do $3 for every mile and we do the $5 additionally? We're still getting the total charge. You will see lots of totals happening in the outputs, okay? And then the x value is every what? So this is happening every hour. So that means that our x is going to represent the number of hours, okay? So if the person had the bike for 4 hours, how much did they pay? So 4 hours, again, that's going to be an x value. So x equals 4. Then we take our equation, y equals 3x plus 5, and we're going to substitute that 4 in. So y is going to equal 3 times 4 plus 5. This is another one we can use our calculator. We just have to make sure that we put everything after the equal sign. So I'm going to go back to Desmos and type 3, parentheses 4, and then I have my plus 5 at the end, and I get 17. Okay, so they would have paid a total of $17 in order to rent the bike for 4 hours. Okay, a different person paid $14. Okay, a total of $14. So the total, don't forget, is the y value. So the y in that case is going to equal 14. How long would they have had the bike? So we're still going to start off with our equation, y equals 3x plus 5, right? But now I'm going to substitute my 14 in. Okay, this is a different one. I couldn't use my calculator exactly, so I'm going to have to solve for x. The first step is moving that plus 5 to the other side. The opposite of plus 5 is minus 5. So I end up here with 9 equals 3x, and then my last step is to divide by 3. So I would say, okay, they would have had the bike for 3 hours, right? And so I know my slope is 3. I know it's going up $3 every hour. So that would make sense, right? 3 hours would be $14. And then up here, 4 hours would be $17. So that is all making sense. We're going to put this on our graph. So the x-axis is number of hours. And the y-axis is going to be, again, the total charge. Okay, so we are going to start our graph off where the initial fee is, and that is $5. So I'm going to have to pay $5 to just rent the bike at all. And then down here, every hour costs me an additional $3, right? So after the first hour, I pay $3 more. Second hour, $3 more. So I'm just going to keep going. For every hour that I go to the right, I have to go up $3 in my total charge, just like this. Okay. So I'll go ahead and connect those. Good, right? So here we have some additional situations. A pool has 13 gallons of water in it. It is being drained, right? So drained is important because we need to make sure that we know that the water is going down. Water is being removed from the pool at the rate of, okay, rate is another slope word, okay? 500 gallons per, which we already know is another slope word, gallons per hour, right? So initially, at the very beginning, I have 13 or excuse me, 130,000 gallons. So that means that my initial is going to be 130,000. Okay, and we know it's being drained, and that the rate it's being drained, it's going down 500 gallons per hour. So I need to be careful here. I know my slope is 500, but it's actually going to be a negative 500, right? So this equation would be y equals negative 500 x plus 130,000. Every now and again, you might also see this written. You know, it's just a a preference thing. Y equals 130,000 minus 500x, because you start off with 130,000 and you go down 500 each time. It is completely up to you. You might see it both ways, so you just want to be familiar with both ways. Okay. Here, the y is representing after the gallons are removed, what's left over. Okay, so this is going to be the gallons remaining, right? And the x is going to represent the per hour, right? So it's going to be the number of hours that have passed since we started taking the water out, right? So after 125 hours, how much water is left in the pool? So 125 hours is an x value. X is 125. So we start with our equation, negative 500x plus 130,000, and I'm substituting in that x value of 125 hours. Okay, so I'm keeping the equation the same. All I'm doing is replacing the x with 125. So again, I'm going to put this in my calculator. Everything after the equal sign is going to get substituted in there. So I go to my Desmos scientific calculator. Negative 500, don't forget the negative and the minus are the same in Desmos. They are not the same in your calculator in the classroom, the Inspire, but they are the same in Desmos. So negative 500 times 125 plus 1,000 or 130,000, like that. Okay, enter. And my answer is 67,500. So I'll come back over here, and I know that after that many hours, I have, what was it, 67? Yeah, 67,500 gallons. That's how much water is left, right? And then it's going to say, okay, well, how many hours until the pool is completely drained? This doesn't have any numbers in it, so we have to kind of think critically here. Well, I know my y is representing gallons remaining. And how many gallons would be remaining if the pool was completely drained? And that's going to be a 0. Okay, so I'm going to take my equation, negative 500x plus 130,000, and I'm going to substitute in a 0 for my y value. Okay, so I have to solve this now. So my first step is going to be to subtract 130,000 to the other side. Okay, and I get negative 130,000 equals negative 500x. Okay, and in order to get to the next step, I need to divide both sides by negative 500. Okay, I'm not sure what that is, so I'm going to go to my calculator. Negative 130,000 divided by, oh, I gotta have that negative up there in the top to make sure. There it goes, negative 130,000 divided by negative 500, right? And I get 260. So that would be 260 hours, okay? And then the last problem here, I have a 3.58-foot tree is planted in Sam's backyard. Every year, the tree grows 0.84 feet, okay? So this is going to be that initial, that's going to be the B value that it starts off at. And then 0.84 is going to be the slope because it's growing that much every year, okay? So y equals 0.84x plus 3.58. Okay, the y in this situation is representing the height of the tree. And the x is representing the number of years. Remember, because it grows 0.84 every year, right? So use the equation that we wrote to answer the remaining questions, okay? How tall will the tree be after 18 years, right? So that's going to be an x value. So I take my equation, y equals 0.84x plus 3.58, and I'm going to substitute in an x value of 18. Okay, and I'm going to go to my calculator, and I don't want to forget, I'm going to put everything after the equal sign in my calculator. Okay, everything after the equal sign. So I go over here, okay, 0.84 times 18 plus 3, I forgot what the initial was, 3.58. Okay, 0.58. And I get 18.7. Okay, so that means that my tree after 18 years is going to be 18.7 feet tall, right? And then it says, how long is it going to be until the tree is 30 feet high? Okay, so 30 feet high is a y value. So my y is going to be 30. I go back to my original equation, 0.84x plus 3.58, and I'm going to substitute that 30 in for y, right? And now I'm going to have to solve to get x, okay? So subtract 3.58 minus 3.58, okay? 30 minus 3.58 is going to be 26.42. So we'll go ahead and substitute that in here. Equals 0.84x. And then all I have to do is divide by 0.84. So I'll go back to my calculator and press divided. So I have 26.42 on the top, 0.84 on the bottom, 30.45. So I will have 30.45 years.